Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Mhenga Baba, and leo tuko hapa courtesy of TakeMe-OutAdventures Kenya, and we are going to talk about relationships in and mental health, okay? And why are we talking about this? In preparation for the Mental Health Awareness Walk, scheduled to take place on 10th of October 2024. Na kama kawaida, niko na mgeni hapa siku ya leo. Tunataka kuongea mambo mawili matatu, ni mambo ya mahusiano. Kidogo mtu ni toxic, flag ni red, unaona kama ni pink. Hiyo yote tunataka kujua leo. Ama namna gani?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I'm good, doing well. It's a blessing and a privilege to be here.
Okay.
My name is Eliud Ngoko. I'm a counseling psychologist, licensed and certified by the government.
Okay.
And I run a counseling center, but I'm also an ordained minister of the gospel.
Bwana asifiwe.
I work the two sides.
Lazima tutatoa fungu la 10.
Asante. Ndakula tu.
Ifungu ni ya Mungu.
Asante.
So leo bwana mchungaji and psychology, nitakuwa na kurefer by board.
That's okay.
Zote ni zako.
Zote ni zangu.
Baraka ni zako.
Kabisa.
Talking about relationships and mental health, relationships in mental health.
Yes.
Maybe tunaweza anza na kudefine mental health ni nini?
Okay. Mental health kwa kawaida ni akili. Ni afya ya akili. Kwa maneno machache ni vile ambavyo tunajitunza kwa akili zetu kama vile tunajitunza kwa mwili. Ukiangalia vile ulivyo na vile nilivyo, tuko hivi kwa sababu tuko na afya ya kimwili.
Okay.
Tunatembea, tunaweza ongea, na hivyo akili zetu zinakuanga na afya. Kwa hivyo hiyo ndio tunaita mental health.
Okay.
Ni part ya, according to the UN, wanasema ya kwamba without mental health there is no health.
Okay.
So ni component moja ya health ya mwanadamu.
Hawezi ukasema uko mzima bila mambo ya mental health.
No. Actually it's a big part of it.
Relationships.
Life is about relationships. Today we have met. Muhenga and Eliud, we have connected. We are in a relationship now at a different level. Kila mwanadamu anakuanga na uhusiano na mwingine kwa sehemu tofauti. So hiyo kuhusiana na hiyo kufanya mambo kipamoja kuachieve a certain goal ndio inaitwa uhusiano.
Okay.
Na zinatoka juu mpaka pale chini, level ya chini na level ya juu, vile watu wako kulingana na closeness ama ukaribu. Yes.
And how do these two things intertwine, or how do they marry? Zinaingiliana kivipi ama zinahusiana kivipi?
Basically nitasema hivi bwana Mhenga. You are the way you are because of somebody's input.
Okay.
Kutoka utotoni. Unaanza na kuwa na relationship na mama katika tumbo. That's the only human being you get to know. But as the baby develops, other relationships start coming in. Huyu mtoto akiwa tumbo la mama anaanza kumachua na anaanza kusikia sauti. Anaanza kujenga na uhusiano na watu wengine apart from the mother.
Bado tu akiwa pale ndani.
Akiwa kwa tumbo. Actually now, siku moja utakuwa baba. Me am a father of two.
Mimi ni baba already. Wewe unasema siku moja hutaruhusi.
Okay, sawa.
Ndevu imekatalia ndani.
Ndevu imekatalia. Sasa wakati mke wako amebeba mimba, start talking to the kid. You're already building a relationship. In the Christian setting, we teach them because we have couples seminars that a father must start speaking to the child. Immediately ameanza to develop. Start telling him or her who you are. The child recognizes your voice. And actually some studies have shown that the child plays when the voice of the father is heard. Now we are saying from that moment all the way to death, we'll have very many relationships. The workplace, the church, the family, intimate relationships, in places of business, in communities, and in other activities. So we can never avoid relationships. And that is why the product of mental health is mostly a product of relationships. Just to give an example, many people who fall to a disorder called depression, one ascribe it to relationships. And that's why we cannot avoid connecting mental health and relationships, because your overall well-being and mental health is dependent on the people you relate in and the people you let into your life.
That's good, eh?
Yes, yes.
So maybe unaweza tutajia different kinds or types of relationship that ziko.
Actually, I would say we can start from below going upwards. Inaanzanga na parental relationships.
Okay.
Those are the first. Tukimaliza hiyo tunaingia kwa sibling relationships. And I know you have had a certain phenomena called sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
It's part of the relationships. Then ukimaliza hapo, see, obviously the next ni shule. Unaanza school relationship with the teachers, with the fellow students. Then sasa tunaingia friends, relationships with the friends. As we continue, they may become intimate. People get married, become marital relationships. Then out there you're working, you have colleagues, work relationships. You're also doing business partners, business relationships. Church, you join a church, you become a member, you have relationships. Actually, you move on, you have even relationship with other people from other tribes. You spread like that all the way to international relations. And that's a whole study of university to study how nations relate.
It's a whole course, by the way.
It's a whole course, by the way. So that tells you that relationships are as minute, but they are as global as they can be. In between, there are so many. We may not be able to list all of them, but in a nutshell, those are some of the most important.
Ziko mingi, eh?
Yeah, ziko mingi.
Na hii ni sharubati. Hii ni sharubati.
Mchungaji hakunywi kinywaji.
It's good to clarify. Sio machozi ya simba. Na hizo machozi ya simba.
Kabisa.
Basi sasa hii ni sharubati.
Ni Del Monte.
Positive, negative relationships.
Wow. Now that is where we have to now talk about it. Relationships are supposed to be positive. But unfortunately, Mhenga, we don't have perfection in life. So as much as we desire relationships to be very positive, they end up being negative. Positive relationships are those that build you as a person.
Okay.
They make your value go higher. They build your self-esteem. They make the best to come out of you. But a negative relationship, on the other hand, brings out the worst in the person. If we can zero in on one area, marriage. If Muhenga, you do right with your relationship and you enter into a good marriage, it will bring the best out of you.
Yeah.
But if another person makes a blunder and enters into a wrong marriage relationship, their worst comes out. And now that is what you call a negative relationship.
Okay.
So it can go either way. Sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it is right.
Narrowing down to the romantic relationships and marriage, eh?
Yes.
And especially on the negative side, sababu that is where the mental distress is, eh?
Yes.
Why do people get into those relationships in the first place? How do they find themselves there? Ni kwa nini utapata mtu all of a sudden ameshajipata in a relationship ambayo iko very negative?
Very negative. And I like the way you're putting it, that you unajipata. Because kutumia hilo jina unajipata is kind of an accidental, and that tells you about how we are approaching issues in life. I'll start by going back to the family. Why it is easy for young people especially to get into wrong relationships, especially at the intimate level, because other levels you have a bit of a leeway and you're able to actually maneuver around it. But when it comes to intimate now, huyu ni mtu ambaye sasa mko karibu na yeye na mnakuwa na kitu inaitwa entanglement in scriptural terms, but also is a psychological term, where now we become conjoined in a relationship which we find hard to leave. So I'll give just 3 ways I look at it.
Okay.
One is the childhood need, where you find some people have been denied love within the family, or some have gone through what we call abuse or dysfunctional family. They have never seen leadership or love within the family. or they have a wrong father or a wrong mother in terms of the approach of parenting. So when all these things pile together, somebody gets to high school or university, they get a bit of freedom. In the process of engaging, they don't have capacity to make the right choices, because actually they have never been exposed to the right choice. So they enter into negative relationships, even without their plan, because it is psychological. And that is where it starts. And now it grows. And when people are so entangled, now we come to where I think you're targeting, where they are now bound and they feel like they cannot live because of the helplessness.
Talking about negative relationships, there is one word ambayo inakujanga kwa akili. The moment you mention a negative relationship, a certain word has to come by. The word toxic. Very true. You see? Mtu ameachana na mtu anasema na hiyo jamaa alikuwa very toxic. Very toxic. Na hakuwa anaona kwanza akiwa pale ndani. So hii toxic, you know, toxic is such a heavy term. Tutafika point gani ndio tuseme this relationship is too toxic?
Yeah, because actually you're right. We cannot say negative relationships are all toxic, but when they deteriorate, now they become toxic. So when we use the word toxic in amanisha poisonous, you know, in science we say that a toxic substance has been released into the atmosphere. It is poisonous. It may affect somebody negatively in their physical health. It's the same concept when you come to the toxic relationships. It's where now a person is poisoned within a relationship. What do we mean by poisoned? Their welfare is not taken care of, and the difference in toxic relationships is the amount of power. Okay? When one partner is too powerful to the disadvantage of the other, that relationship now we can say it is toxic. So it manifests itself in so many fronts, and we may not be able to actually be able to bring all of them, but there is authoritarian kind of approach in that relationship. There is abuse in that relationship. There is power imbalance. There is emotional control and many other negative things that the partner is receiving from the other end. They are giving more than they are receiving. We say that they are receiving from the short end of the stick, and now that we can define as a toxic relationship. And I think for a point, let me talk about abuse. Abuse is where somebody's welfare is so negated that they suffer within the relationship, financially, emotionally, physically, and also probably being alienated socially. Yes.
Talking about toxicity, unapatanga watu wengine wako in a toxic relationship.
Yes.
Very toxic. Watu wakiwa pa nje, they are observing and they are even advising them. Unaona? Alafu unapata wao wasikii bado wako hapo. Ni nini inakuanga inachangia vitu kama hizo?
We go back to power. Power is a very important factor of life. And that is why you see them in our country, we suffer so much because of power dynamics. When somebody is powerless in a relationship, they feel like they cannot walk away. And now perpetrators of toxic relationships, they have very high levels of intelligence to keep the relationship going. And one of the things they keep doing is to shift the blame to the victim actually.
Yeah, the blame game.
Yes. So the person is made to feel like they are contributing to this toxicity, and actually they are suffering in the relationship. But we can also talk about other forms of power, like financial need, the presence of children, feeling like the society will judge somebody harshly, the desire to maintain identity, and friendships, and the aspect of acceptability. Let's talk about university students, because we are next to a university. When a student is engaged to a guy, and the guy is toxic, let's start from the end of the male, because mostly you find male toxicity is more powerful because of the cultural factor. The student may feel like, if I drop this guy, then I will lose on the identity because people know I'm in a relationship. Also, there's the blackmail, the sabotage, and there's also the other factor of they have already slept with a guy, and they are connected in that emotional, we call it triangulation, where now they feel like this is the only man. I have given myself to him. I've given too much. I can't afford to lose. So the lady stays, and that is why these relationships are very, very negative, and the effects are very detrimental.
Now that you've mentioned about men, which is very true, wakati tunazungumzia mambo ya toxicity, it is the man who is mostly associated with such.
Yes.
By any chance, do you think a lady can be toxic?
Yeah, equally. The only difference is this: the expression of toxicity for men and women is a bit different.
Okay.
For men, it's a bit more physical, the masculine expression, but for ladies, a bit more emotional. And let me tell you, sometimes physical warfare is better than emotional warfare. So, for example, one of the very popular strategies for women to be toxic is to make the man feel less. So they use words that really kill, because a man's greatest need is respect.
Yeah.
And a woman's greatest need is love.
Love.
So a man would deny love and kill the woman, but a woman will deny respect
and kill the man.
And kill the man.
Anakwambia wewe si type yangu wewe.
Yeah, you're not man enough. Yeah, you're not meeting the standard. Yeah, and men are struggling. Yeah, they're struggling. They are only silent, because men cry inwards, women cry outwards. Men are loners, women are social
beings.
So that's why suicide rates, I think that is something that will be talked about later. They are higher among men than women. Yes.
Now, because we are creating a mental health awareness campaign, so what is the effect what is the effect of these toxic relationships towards our mental health?
Okay. I think that's a good point to come in. There is an issue called gaslighting, and I think it's something that is tied closely to toxic relationships, where a person kind of creates themselves as angels and makes the other person look like a demon. And so what happens when it comes now to mental health, instead of things becoming better, the more you try to come out, the deeper you get into it. Because remember, henga ya kwamba sote tunapenda kupendwa.
Yeah.
Hakuna mtu apendi. So unafika mahali unasikia nikitoka hapa ninaenda wapi? Unaona sasa? So mental health yako sasa ndio inasafa. Mental health ndio inasafa. Kwa sababu unajaribu kucope, lakini coping mechanism inaenda ikireduce. And this is the funny thing about mental health. The more you feel like you're going to make it, the harder it becomes. So wewe unajaribu kuweka mechanisms, lakini mambo inaendelea kuwa magumu, because the other partner actually is not walking the journey with you. So it affects mentally. Stress levels go high. Stress levels, if they are not checked, zinaanzaga na level inaitwa acute, zinaenda mpaka chronic, mpaka finally zinafika level ya depression.
Okay.
So ikifika level ya depression, sasa huyo mtu ni mgonjwa wa akili.
Mgonjwa wa akili,
because hiyo sasa ni diagnosis ambayo inatoka kwa counselor kama mimi, tunaipush to the psychiatrist. Mtu huyo akifika level ya depression, you know, the rest can be anything. Suicide can happen, and we have seen those cases even at the university.
Now, moving towards coping with this issue, or providing a solution, because we are not only identifying the problem, but also offering solutions.
A way forward,
Now, there are two scenarios. One, there are those who are not yet there.
Okay.
okay, they're not yet into a negative relationship or a toxic relationship. And there are those who are there already.
Yes.
Okay. So number one, for these people who are not yet there, watoto wadogo tumeacha nyuma, wanaweza kufanya nini kujiepusha na hii mambo ya toxic, especially in romance,
in intimate relationships, because romance and intimate relationships are different. You can be in an intimate relationship but it's not romantic. So let me go back to the introduction that you did. You mentioned something that people really talk about, called red flags, and I think it's also good to keep on repeating it. Before somebody enters, study the other person. Study them from an objective point of view, not a need point of view. Because if you amplify the need, it blinds you. It is something I love telling couples, because I minister to mostly young people. I tell them that love is blind, but marriage opens blind eyes. So open your eyes objectively. Never enter into a relationship on a need basis. Enter into it on a point of trusting the person that you are engaging in.
Najua sina rent, sasa lazima nikae na yeye ndio nilipie. Sina pesa chakula.
Identity, social acceptance, those are needs that will not help. Because once you enter into it, then that need becomes secondary, and now relationship becomes primary. So red flags are very important. One of the things I'm actually teaching young people is this. Before you start dating, study the person's social media history. At least in our generation, that is easier. For us, we had dated for 4 years. You had to take time to look at the person, know them. Yes. Yes.
Makofi.
Yes. Yeah, because it's a serious thing I'm getting into.
Kuna watu wamepatana maandamano juzi hapa na wameshafunga ndoa.
I saw it. I'm following to see if it's going to work. But actually, dating dynamics have changed. Probably mine and yours may be different. I want to recommend that to our generation. There's an easier way. Social media history tells you something about a person. What are their aspirations, interests? What are they after in life? Where do they spend their most time? Even lack of social media presence is a communication, actually. So when you do that, it helps you to understand what you're getting into. Then number 2, study somebody from a distance. How are they behaving around people? How are they relating? How do they greet people? How do they, that tells you something about a person. Then when you now get into it, before you in too deep, study their habits. How do they respond to your needs? How do they think themselves of themselves first before they think of you? Who compromises more? And this is something that actually is possible to know, but people ignore because of that dopamine. That ka dopamine kanagonganga. Lakini hii mapenzi haitaki moyo peke yake. Inataka moyo na akili. Combination. I would give it 50-50. And for women, I would give it 70-30.
70 ikuwe akili ama ikuwe
akili. Moyo ni mzuri, lakini moyo inakuanga weak. So mimi ningeadvise 70-30 for women. Because it is for them that get emotionally entangled to the point that living becomes very difficult.
Mtu ako pale in a toxic relationship or a negative relationship, and I feel I'm invest a lot.
Yes.
You see, for example, kama ni harusi, tulifanya harusi nyingine kubwa kwa hii kijiji, kila mtu akajua, tunaenda kanisa, sisi ni washirika wakubwa. Sasa tukianza mambo ya kudivorce, watu wataongeaje? You see, wana feel ni kama itakuwa wako na the fear ya kujitoa.
That's something I understand. As a reverend, I have made some enemies with my fellow pastors. I pastored JC Church just here at Chuka University. And one of the things that I stand for is separation. I stand with that. Because when we talk about staying there for spiritual reasons, it negates the power of the love of God. So when couples come to me, I tell them your health and your overall well-being is more important than your name. And so I advocate for separation. On the issue of divorce, is something that now is a bit of a legal and spiritual issue, which different people see it differently. But I still believe it is okay. Finally, it doesn't have to work, especially in infidelity, violent relationships. That's an option that is on the table. But why people stick in there? And I think there's a few years ago, a very popular musician from Nigeria was actually murdered by the husband. And later it was realized that she was being abused by the husband, who are church board members. So I advocate for speaking out. Young people are struggling in toxic relationships because they are afraid of the threats of the person. But those threats work because the perpetrator feels more powerful and the victim feels more powerless. If you just get enough power. And I think I was supporting this lady who was in the streets, and she was saying this, that the more we fear, the more powerful they become. I agree. The more we fear, the more powerful the perpetrator becomes. So somebody has to marshal enough resources and enough capacity and enough courage to just say, I think enough is enough. Let me close talking about what next when you're talking about kids, and you're talking about finances, and you're talking about the standing in the society, and you're talking about career and all those other factors that hold people hostage. Muhenga, this is what I believe in. It's better to not have things but be safe, rather than to be unsafe and enjoy things. And there is a capacity to rise from that and build yourself and become something that would be better than staying in there and dying in the process. So I would advise those who are facing toxic relationships, any abuse, authoritarian. Kuna watu hata hawezi enda mahali bila kuambia their boyfriends. Wanakuwa tracked, wengine wamewekewa mpaka tracking software. They should run out. In marriage is going to end up in death. Yes. Let me close with a certain illustration that was developed by a certain group to show how important it is to go to walk away. This lady was giving her story, and the video opens with her saying, my boyfriend brought me flowers today because he was apologizing, he hit me. My boyfriend brought me flowers today because he pushed me against the wall. My boyfriend brought me flowers today because he knocked me out and I fainted. And the last scene hits home because she says from the grave, my boyfriend has brought me flowers today because I'm in the grave.
So unfortunate.
It is. So what seems small may end up in a very big situation. So it's better to work out. Life has to go on, and we don't depend on men. I think I bring in my faith here to say that whoever trusted in a man or depends on a man, actually they are cursed.
Hallelujah. Bwana Yesu asifiwe.
Amen.
Speak up. Walk out. Hapana kaa pale. Thank you very much, mchungaji. Labda sasa unaweza ukasema tunakupata wapi?
As I've told you, I do two things. I serve in the ministry. I do counseling, so I have two offices. I lead a vibrant church, over 200 young people and several 50 or so members of families. And this is in Tumaini, Ndagani, and we serve every Sunday from 8 to 10 for young people and 10 to 1 for the families. And then I have a counseling center just here at the city in Ndagani, and I offer counseling professionally, and we do good charges because we want to target every member of the family. And my number is 0721 399 433.
Come again?
0721 399 433. But I believe that they'll put it in the bio of the video, and so you can call. Please don't be silent. Even if you don't have money, we will work with you and help you. If you're in trouble, come. We will know how to support you. Karibu sana. God bless you.
All right.